Truth, logic, action, power. It's the GreggHoush Show here on New Revolutionary Radio. From the Leonard School in Malden, Massachusetts, Gregg and company are here to bring a sense of ethics to your news. Whether it's politics, activism, or current events, we always seek to inform and never to deceive. Let's start the show.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 47 of the GreggHoush Show. Tonight, we are not joined by the wonderful Kayla. She is not feeling good. We had a big snowstorm. She's sitting at home. So it's me and Mac tonight. No big, long intro for Mac tonight. So, first up, I want to talk about the future of the show a little. So we are, with our engineer Robert here, working on a lot of cool changes to the show. We're going to be putting together the YouTube channel. We're going to be working on going live, working on more social interactions, more guests, me going on more other podcasts, all the other fun stuff. So you can expect a lot of changes in the near future as we build out all of these fun new features. You can also expect a few more podcasts coming from our studios here, probably over the next few months as we build that out as well. So should be fun. Everyone pay attention, and I hope a lot of you come live with us when we get this up and running live soon. So without further ado, let's talk about porn, Stormi Daniels.
Yes.
So she's now suing Donald Trump.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I liked that not only did her lawyer, filed a lawsuit, but then just tweeted out a link to the Dropbox of the filing.
Yeah, just here you go, everyone.
Yeah, hey, and it's just so everyone knows, here's a lawsuit.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely wonderful.
That's the right way to do it.
So the lawsuit has all kinds of fun stuff in it. Alleging that the NDA Daniel signed with Trump is invalid because Trump never actually signed it, instead having lawyer Michael Cohen sign it for him. It also alleges that this was a deliberate decision by Trump so he could publicly deny knowledge if details surfaced in public. Furthermore, it asserts that Cohen has repeatedly tried to silence her, including as recently as the 27th of February, when he initiated an arbitration proceeding against her. So basically, Trump has mishandled this from the start.
Systematically.
In every way you could. And now there's a porn star out there who already received the money and probably can still legally talk.
It's I'm not a lawyer, so I don't want to, say that it's an open and shut case. But the fact that Trump apparently never signed the NDA himself and just had a lawyer sign as his legal representative seems like it might be kind of a problem for him. Yeah.
A lot of the pundits out there are, they've been talking about the various laws, saying that basically since Trump didn't sign it, it's not a valid agreement, and that she can talk. So we'll have to see what the courts think about this, but that's going to be funny. This is the first president of the United States of America to be sued in court by a porn star.
Hey, to be fair, I believe it is also the first time a sitting U.S. president has had someone working on their behalf attempt to get a restraining order against a porn star.
Yeah, there's a lot of firsts coming from this presidency. This was not the one I expected. This was not the direction I expected any of us to go.
Honestly, it isn't necessarily if I'd been writing out a list of my predictions, it might not have made the list, but I can't say I'm very surprised.
With how he treats women and then knowing that he had been in things like those Playboy videos and whatnot, I guess you could have assumed that maybe someone was going to come out of the woodwork.
Yeah, it's not like there weren't plenty of allegations regarding his past conduct in all manner of regards with women. So it's really every single individual piece of this, you're like, oh, yeah, I could totally see that. It's just a little unexpected to see all of them come together at once.
Yeah. So we're just waiting on that one. The lawsuit was just announced Tuesday, and there's a lot more to come there. And, I just heard Chris Matthews talking about it over on MSNBC, and he was talking about Paul Ryan's response to this. And his response was, quote, "I haven't spent 1 minute of time thinking about that," end quote. Now, I got to say, that sounds like a lie.
It does.
The Republican Party, whether it was true or not ever, always ran on family values. And, getting sued by a porn star that you tried to get an NDA for is definitely not in any way family values or conservative in nature.
No, I know that, it wasn't that long ago that a president got impeached about for supposedly perjuring himself over a blowjob.
Yeah.
So I feel confident in saying that that's definitely the position of the Republican Party as a whole. I can't remember any of that specific brand from Paul Ryan in particular, but I'd be kind of surprised if he hadn't.
Sure, but if you look back at like Clinton, you look at what Move On did during that time period. They were very, we're not talking about this. We didn't see anything. Yep. We don't know what you're doing. Eli and the boys there completely ignored it like Clinton had done nothing wrong. So the Democrats reacted the same way that currently the Republicans are.
Yes.
And it's with politics to be expected that they're acting this way. But still, it is interesting to see all these family values conservatives not speaking up about the Republican getting sued by the porn star.
I mean, it's weird because, like, in their defense, in a lot of ways, it's kind of a big deal over nothing. Like, yeah, it's a huge level of hypocrisy from these family values Republicans, but like the allegation is that he had a consensual affair with a porn star. Under normal circumstances, that would just be a who gives a fuck.
Yeah,
it's really like the combination of the hypocrisy and the fact that all the information coming out about the maneuverings to try and conceal it that are really the only reason it has any public interest whatsoever.
Yeah, if he had just in the end said, "Yeah, I had a little relationship for a few days with this woman. It was fun. It was something that happened in my life. It's the past. I'm over it. I'm never doing that again." That you could have gotten past that, but instead,
it would have been so easy. Even just being like, "Yeah, I'm not going to comment on any specific alleged affairs that I had, but I will freely admit that there have been a lot of them. I have not been what you might call faithful." You could come out and say all that and be like, "Yeah, no, I slept around." No. What?
Yeah.
And then what?
Yeah, exactly.
Where do you go? So what?
Yeah. But instead, he tried to hide everything. Again, he's just bad at this.
Right. And just like, it's just mind-blowing how badly managed all of these attempts at cover-ups have been.
Yeah. So let's move on. As we wait for that lawsuit to kind of move through the courts, there'll be a lot more there. But let's talk about Sergei Skripal.
Oh, yeah.
So Sergei was a double agent, originally a GRU agent in Russia, so a Russian spy.
In fact, rose to the level of colonel in
Yes.
the GRU. So military intelligence colonel.
Yes.
That's pretty good. That's pretty high up there.
He went double agent with MI6 in the 90s and started working for basically the other team because, some countries understood double agents as a necessity and didn't take those double agents and throw them in jail. But, Russian double agents were all thrown in jail.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a deal made that got Sergei out in trade for, a bunch of Russians in trade for a bunch of Americans and British, spies, just basically clearing some of them out of the prisons on both sides in trades. And now it looks like a state-sponsored nerve agent attack aimed at him took out not only him and his daughter. At least they're in the hospital. They might recover, but
they're definitely in pretty serious condition.
They're in serious condition.
I mean, I think technically it's
as are
condition, but,
a bunch of other people, like the police officer who found them.
And a couple of the other police officers who were involved.
Yeah,
and
so the nerve agent wasn't just like dropped in this guy's coffee. It was kind of in the air.
It's also, some of these nerve agents are
pretty strong
and easily spread.
Yes.
It's kind of a design feature.
Yes. So this person, over in Salisbury in the UK there, Skripal, he might make it. But this will be what? The second one that the public will have heard a lot of detail about, of specifically the Russians killing ex-Russian agents
Yep.
in Britain.
Yes.
with just, basic poisoning.
Yep.
Although the other one with polonium was really like a well-targeted one person.
Yeah, that was like
this was a sloppy job.
Yeah, it really was.
Like, did they know he was about to say something and they just had to act quick?
I mean, the Telegraph is reporting that he was apparently in close contact with a security consultant who worked for Christopher Steele.
Who we know from the Steele dossier.
Right, so there is a possibility that he may have been one of the people involved in helping compile that information or provide some of it. And
so the implication
if he knows
is
more, then they
he
might
needs to go.
want him quiet very quickly.
Yes, so there's the tie-in to Trump with this one.
At least a potential one. We don't know that was the reason, but it certainly would explain a lot.
Well, again, that's another one. We'll wait and see what he has to say when he wakes up, if he wakes up. I mean, it is sad that his daughter got caught up in this one. It didn't look like she was that involved. No. Just collateral damage there. Now we're on to every single person on the planet telling Trump not to do tariffs, and then Trump does tariffs.
Well, I mean, I hear that the CEOs of a couple of steel companies were pretty happy about it.
Oh, yeah. So the last two people he talked to.
For some reason, the head of the AFL-CIO.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
Yeah, I don't know.
Unless he owns a lot of shares of like some steel and aluminum companies.
Right. But even then, like, I think the AFL-CIO has enough union members in other industries that are going to be affected.
A bunch of Republican politicians, I think it was 110 or something, signed a letter saying, don't do this to Trump. And Trump still signed the tariffs into law today.
Yeah. And Jeff Flake threatened to bring a bill to Congress to undo it specifically.
Yeah. So here we are with new tariffs, 25% on steel, 10% on aluminum. And Canada was very quick to say, hey, wait a minute, that hurts us a lot and we could hurt you just as much. So Trump backed off and Canada gets an exemption.
And so does Mexico.
So this is in somehow relation to protecting NAFTA?
Yeah, because there's the ongoing theoretical renegotiation of NAFTA.
Yeah.
That, the U.S. is the only one that really wants.
Right.
They because that is ongoing, though, they decided to, leave Canada and Mexico out for the moment of these new tariffs. And they're also talking about maybe excluding Australia and some other allies. But then they said that when the EU came to them and wanted an exemption, that they'll have to negotiate a deal with the U.S. to alleviate security concerns and stuff like that.
So the EU came at them with some very specific responses. Here are the brands and companies we're going to take.
They weren't specific about companies. They were just very targeted on the industries and products.
But they were specifically targeted at McConnell's home district, at Paul Ryan's home district, and at Pelosi's home district.
Harley Davidson motorcycles,
Levi Strauss,
Levi jeans, cranberries, which are largely grown in Wisconsin and Paul Ryan's district, no less, I believe. There was bourbon from Kentucky and Tennessee. It was all like just a list of like, so who's important in Congress? What do their districts produce? All right, it's on the list.
Yeah, so that's their response. Hit the people in power in their home districts with job-crushing tariffs.
It's almost like that was a super predictable outcome of this or something.
Yeah, it's almost like they had that sitting in their back pocket, in fact. Like it was very quick.
Maybe this might come up.
Yeah, they had that ready to go. So these tariffs they go into effect in 15 days unless someone does something to make him undo what he just did. But as I understand it, that's got to be an act of Congress and it's got to be super majority and everything else to, get around all this.
Yeah, they'd have to, there's an obvious veto threat implied by the fact that he signed this in the first place.
Yeah.
So, they need the full super majority to do anything.
That is crazy. And that's never happening.
No.
So here we go with the trade war. It's on.
Yeah.
Let's go. Because, we don't lose that one.
Idea.
The thing that people don't understand about a trade war is we can really isolate ourselves. We have two giant oceans with no land between us. to China and all of Asia and to Europe and Africa. They have much cheaper, quicker routes to each other than to us. If we choose to stop sending them things, there are very few things that we have that they can't get somewhere else.
It's true.
At volume, sure, there's some places that need to ramp up on certain food products, but overall, this looks like it's literally just painful to us.
Also, I mean, you want to get around tariffs. It's when you have exclusions like Canada and Mexico, it's not exactly hard to just set up a company in Canada or Mexico to act as the pass-through to bring the goods to that country so they can then be imported to the U.S. without tariff.
Right. I mean, there's 100 ways around this. He literally only did it because it was a campaign promise. Even though it was a dumb one, he wanted to get another campaign promise through.
I mean, those who might ascribe malice rather than dumbassery here might suggest that Russia would be very happy about the U.S. picking a fight with all of its fucking allies by putting a tariff on them.
So one of the problems that people like Trump just aren't looking at is let's cut out all the foreign steel as much as we can by putting such a tariff on it, and so we protect our U.S. steel. We've let U.S. steel production and factories and manufacturing just die so hard in the last 20 years. We can't replace all of the foreign steel with local steel.
I mean,
we don't have the production lines for this.
With 20 years of preparatory work, maybe we could get to there.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is just literally just painful for everyone involved.
Yeah. And of course, it just, obvious. The entire idea of a trade war, once you've even just had the basic premise of how it works explained, it's like, oh, well, of course countries would do that in response to this sort of thing. And wow, they can do a lot of damage if they do. Although I'm waiting for them to just, announce that they're going to do just a nice list of targeted tariffs that apply very specifically to things that Trump owns stake in. I mean, obviously they don't really export anything where they could do a tariff on hotels, but he's gotta have a stake in a bunch of businesses that they can just go after right there.
Yeah. I mean, so here's where we get to a really interesting argument that you can have, that we have let a lot of these industries die off, and we have been very unequal in terms of our trade partnerships with the rest of the world. These are actual problems that need to be addressed. These just aren't the ways to address them because we let them go for so long and so badly that you can't just suddenly say, magically, we're putting a tariff on the rest of the world and our stuff's going to be fixed.
In fact, not only is it not the right solution, it's such the wrong way of addressing the issue that it demonstrates a fundamental failure to understand what actually went wrong.
Yes.
It's someone has a broken bone and you're trying to cover it with a butterfly bandage. Yeah. You have applied the wrong solution in a way that suggests you don't understand what actually happened here.
We're solving Reaganomics with a sledgehammer.
A Reaganomics-derived sledgehammer.
Yes. The sledgehammer will trickle down on you from the supply side. Yes. Yeah, no. This is going nowhere but pain to everyone around. And if it escalates and they don't do something about it in Congress, this is going to cost more jobs than it saves in America.
Oh, I mean, even just on its own, it so easily could. Think about all the U.S. manufacturing and industry and sales that relies on steel and aluminum. Every single business there is going to be impacted.
Because they have to pay higher prices for their materials.
Right. And that's going to affect how much they get in the way of sales or work orders. That's going to affect what their costs look like.
U.S. prices are going to go up because they know they can get more.
Right. So this really just, even if you disregard the entire trade war, the fact that all of those industries are probably, I don't know what, 10 times the portion of the economy that the steel and aluminum industry themselves are at this point in the U.S. It's like trying to save a few cents on your power bill by burning $100 bills.
Yeah, it's the worst.
What are you even thinking?
So our fun idiot president, signs that bill, and now
It's not even a bill. It's just like a presidential
he just
order.
signs the order. Yeah. So now we're looking at other fun things like it looks like the New York Times has reported Wednesday that Donald Trump approached White House counsel Don McGahn in the Oval Office earlier this year to question why he wouldn't publicly dispute the New York Times story saying the president had ordered him to fire Mueller. And what we're reading there, if you really understood that, is that's the president asking White House counsel to lie.
Yeah.
The White House counsel, of course, tells him no because you said that.
Not only that, but like apparently when Trump wanted the meeting with McGahn in the first place to have that conversation, he went to our good old friend, wife beater Rob Porter, then White House aide, and told him to go tell McGahn to, put out a statement, and suggested that McGahn could be fired if he didn't. So not only did he, in all practical effect, order his lawyer to lie to the public, but he expressly suggested the possibility of retaliation if he didn't.
That is just crazy. So,
which, I mean, I'm pretty sure that, there are cases to be made there for, witness tampering and obstruction of justice just based off of that conversation alone.
Well, yeah, that's just, in addition to all the other examples of this. So now we get more information, and this information comes to us from George Nader, a Lebanese-American businessman who helped organize and who attended a meeting in the Seychelles with Eric Prince. And he is telling Mueller and the grand juries that this meeting was specifically set up to build a back channel between the Kremlin and Trump's team during the elections.
Which is, of course, we've talked about this meeting at least once in the past, I think 2 or 3 times now. And, every time it's been suggested that that was the obvious motive of the meeting. It's what many anonymous sources have been saying for quite a while. But
Prince has been saying that it was just a chance meeting, that they were both there. What a miracle.
Yeah, according to him, he had just happened to be traveling to the Seychelles with some of his buddies that were very senior UAE officials, because obviously when you want to go meet with your buddies who run the UAE, you go to the Seychelles.
Of course.
But, he was just there hanging out with them, and they suggested, hey, you should meet this Russian hedge fund guy we know who just happens to be over there.
Yeah, go hang out with him for a minute.
I mean, never mind. There's so many problems with this account. Like, just at a fundamental level, the idea that someone's life is, oh, well, yeah, I met, this Russian hedge fund manager who's very, very closely linked to Putin and runs a hedge fund that is, widely said to basically just act on behalf of the Russian government. But, I met him just because I was hanging out with the guys that run the UAE after I did a, random jaunt to an island nation with them. And they suggested this. Like, whose fucking life is that? Just right there.
Nobody's.
Even if that story was true, I would still be like, bullshit.
Yeah.
But then it gets, like, every part of the story from there only gets less plausible.
Right.
And then not only has he been telling, the public that, oh yeah, no, it's just totally a coincidence, whatever, but he told Congress that. So, assuming that it's not true, which I feel pretty safe in assuming, then he
committed perjury.
Yeah, committed perjury, lied to investigators, lied to Congress. There are like 3 or 4 different crimes right there.
And Mueller has a person who helped set it all up, talking.
They're also reporting that while he is a key witness on these details, he is not the only evidence Mueller's team has on this. That we don't know the details of what else they have, but sources are definitely saying that he's got more.
So this is just more fun for Mueller. So when he's talking to other people before this was made public that he had George Nader, he's asking them about this so they lie to him.
Oh, of course. That's expressly
now,
how these work.
And now everyone's like, oh crap, George is talking. Shit, what did I say to Mueller again?
Yeah.
I love that people are sitting there in that state at this point. Like, that's exactly where they belong.
Especially since we now know that Nader has actually been cooperating since mid-January. So he's had multiple meetings with the Mueller investigator. He's testified in front of the grand jury. All of this is coming out now, like a month and a half after the fact.
Yeah, so he's had a month and a half to catch a lot of people in lies.
Yeah.
So over the last few weeks, we found out about China's Xi Jinping becoming, in air quotes here, president for life. Basically removing his term limits so he could keep running.
Yep.
He, of course, has to be elected, but we all know how it works.
Yes, the Chinese election system is very efficient at ensuring that the desired outcome is occurring.
Yes.
Mostly because you don't get on the ballot unless you're part of that.
Yeah. The only people on the ballot is the group that they are happy with winning.
Well,
by that I mean the one guy.
Well, it's literally to get on the ballot, you have to be, selected by the central committee of the party.
Yes.
So, pretty predictable outcome.
So after we learn all of this, at a closed door meeting with Republican donors at Mar-a-Lago, Trump says, quote, he's now president for life. President for life. No, he's great. And look, he was able to do that. I think it's great. Maybe we'll have to give that a shot someday.
And of course,
he says maybe we'll have to give that a shot someday. The idea of a president for life.
And of course, the defense that everyone wanting to take his side here is going with is that, everyone laughed and applauded oh, it was a joke. Except for anyone that's ever seen Donald Trump and looked at his pattern of behavior, it doesn't really sound like much of a joke. Sure, maybe people laughed at it and thought it was a joke, but from Donald Trump, at best, you have to look askance at it. Wait, with his history, was that a joke?
Yeah.
But more importantly,
I don't think it was.
Does it fucking matter? That was.
You can't say stuff like that as the president.
Especially when you have you have to look at your track record and be like, how is that going to be taken? Is there a legitimate cause for people to be concerned when I say that? If I make that joke, do people have reason to doubt that it's really a joke? Because if you're the president of the United States and that's a thing that might be the case, you should really, really reconsider that joke.
Yeah.
Can you imagine it? It would been one thing if, for example, President Obama had made a joke like that at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. It would have come across, I think, a way that wouldn't have had that same risk. It would have been, maybe not, the best idea given some of the conspiracy theories about him, but it at least wouldn't have had, just blatantly.
People would have just outright believed it was a joke that were, intelligent.
On the other hand, though, even if you think that would have been 100% okay for Obama to, make a joke like that at the White House press correspondents' dinner, if he had done that at a closed door dinner with Democratic donors, I think a lot of people would have looked at it in a little bit different. It
would have had
light.
The word "gate" after it, and Fox News wouldn't have shut up for a year.
And we would have had congressional hearings and probably an impeachment.
Yeah. I mean, it's that bad. The last real bit of news for today so far has been in the last hour, we've learned from South Korea that by May, they state that Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un will have in-person meetings on the Korean Peninsula. This is news that was announced about an hour ago. And it's an interesting world we live in where Trump being Trump at North Korea, just being himself at North Korea, has landed us actual in-person talks with their leader. And that just is crazy to me in that, we might be living in an era where maybe not through his actual like words on the ground or anything else, but just simply because the door is now open, Trump will get some credit for solving the Korean problem.
Which, I mean, anyone that's paid any attention to the issues with North Korea knows that fundamentally North Korea, or at least its leadership, has been, at least in private, trying to figure a way out of this mess for quite a while. They know that this situation is a clusterfuck for them.
Yes. They know they're the losers in this.
Yeah. And like, you can't be a dictator of a country at this point and not look at how that tends to work out in the long run.
Yeah.
So, they've got to have been exploring like, so what are our options for, finding a way out of this mess? And it was half the problem was that there simply wasn't a good path. But when you're dealing with someone who's, going to do whatever the person that talked to him 5 minutes ago said and has no values or standards of his own and, is a lunatic who will just say anything anywhere at pretty much any time. And you don't know if he's about to press the button or not. It gives them some leeway to change their responses in some ways that wouldn't necessarily be feasible with a typical administration, even if it wasn't really because of Trump per se.
The playbook has kind of been thrown out on this one. The other interesting thing that's been stated about this talk before May that we've heard is that North Korea is agreeing to stop all missile tests and all nuclear build out and testing until after the talks, and possibly for good. The South actually used the language saying that North Korea is open to complete denuclearization in these talks, that is on the table if they're handled correctly. That is just crazy to me that we could live in that age where Trump brings us a denuclearized Korean peninsula. But
I'm a little doubtful.
We're possibly there. Possibly.
Yeah, I'm just...
That possibility wasn't on the table before. It's on the table now. Even if it's a 1% chance, that 1% wasn't there before.
Yeah, it's just... I guess my fundamental problem is the idea of the Trump administration successfully negotiating an agreement with anyone that isn't already basically on their side.
Sure. So, the only way I see this agreement coming to fruition is if Trump has the initial talks to at least open the door and, that's fine, and then backs off. And, no matter how much I hate him, he lets Rex Tillerson in the door and Rex does the negotiating and everyone just leaves him alone while he does it. He's the type of guy who could negotiate something at this level, and it's sort of supposed to be his job a little.
Yeah, but from what I hear, he just locks himself in his office all the time. He doesn't do any work.
I mean, not that I want him doing half of the things he wants to do for his job either.
They're terrible.
But on this count, I think he could actually, from that administration, if Trump gave him, the leeway, he could negotiate that. And it's blowing my mind because, of course, fuck Trump and his entire team.
Yeah.
So anyways, we'll follow that one. We'll see what's going on. Next week's show is going to be really interesting. We haven't had that many guests in the last few shows, but next week we're going to have a show focused a lot on immigration, on ICE, on their enforcement, on just how they're literally snatching people off of courtroom steps. And we're going to have a guest who is, for the most part, going to be anonymous on this one. We'll have a little detail, but not enough for you to identify the person, who's going to talk about her husband being taken recently from courtroom steps, who definitely shouldn't have been, and what that did to their family, what they're working on to try and solve this problem right now, and just, all the horror related to that. And it'll be a really interesting show. So I hope you guys come around for that one. And the go forward after that is to start getting live, getting the YouTube up and running. So everyone hang out.
Segments on the show. We've talked about those, or we've privately talked about that from the start of the show. But now we might actually be. Well, we did do the one
segment on the Chevy brothers.
Yeah.
But we're going to start doing a lot more segments, a lot more little pieces. Now that we've kind of got a year under our belt, we're feeling like we've got the basics down.
Yes.
It might have taken us a little while, but now that the basics are down, we're going to be doing a lot more work to expand what the show does. And, To be quite honest about it, I felt very overwhelmed by the idea of expanding out, what we're going to be doing and all that. And we're really lucky to have Robert on the team because I reached out to Robert and just said, look, spearhead getting us some of these things that we've talked about so often actually done, figured out. And he's come up with a good plan to make this happen. So thanks, Robert. Thanks for that. Other than that, though, I think that's our show for tonight. So see you next week, everyone.
Thank you for listening. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at GreggHoush Show and on Instagram at GreggHoush. If you like what you've heard and want to be a part of it, check out patreon.com/GreggHoush Show. In exchange for funding our programming, you gain access to exclusive content such as uncut editions of our podcast. We have new episodes every Thursday night. We hope you listen in. The GreggHoush Show was created by Gregg Housh, executive produced by co-host Eric Gowrays, and co-hosted by Kayla Avery. Other contributors include producer and writer Anna Jeffrey, co-host producer David McGuffin, and writer-engineer Robert Tortora. Theme music for this show was produced and recorded by Geneva de Colbert. Our interns include co-host Casey McLaughlin, writer-engineer Alec Greeny, writer Maddie LoCicero, and associate producer, writer, and announcer William Kennedy. You're listening to New Revolutionary Radio, your call to action.